That's
Hey,
right.
everybody.
Bonus.
You got bonus Jason Martinez in there.
Yeah, right. In and out Martinez.
Yeah. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Erin Watson,
I'm Chris Friday.
and we are with Game On Nation, a leading teamwork and communication firm based here in Bradenton, Florida.
Who would have thought that in all the localities,
All the places in
Right.
all the world.
Right.
Bradenton, Florida.
here we are.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Bradenton, we're just south of Tampa, just north of Sarasota, and we are coming at you through your computer today.
Yeah.
So we're excited that you're jumping into the live stream with us, and we're excited to talk to you today about your walk-up song.
Yeah.
So that is the title of the blog today. What is your walk-up
is-
song?
And I think, as we think, if you haven't had a chance to read the blog, make sure you read that, just thinking about like an experience that our founder Steve had on having to do a presentation and someone looking for a walk-up song. And in the moment of like, what is my walk-up song, right?
That's it. That's quite a moment. So we watch a lot of baseball in our house.
Yes.
And so I'm always fascinated by what walk-up song
Yes.
people choose. We go to a lot of baseball games. So it's just kind of funny to see and hear what people pick. And I'd love
Right.
to hear the story behind it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it tells you a lot while telling you very little.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw it out to the audience as you're watching, whether that's live or you're watching later. What is your walk-up song? What is that song right before a big moment that gets you excited, that gets you in the right mindset, that gets you thinking? What is your walk-up song? So I want to encourage you to drop that into the chat. We would love to hear, what is your walk-up song?
As we were, getting ready for this and thinking about like the blog and things that we were talking about, as I think about like walk-up song, I think not just, like if you're having to give a presentation or if you're going up to bat, if you're a professional baseball player, right? But like that moment of like entering, right? And thinking about like, what are those moments that we come into it? And in the blog, Steve really didn't have like a song, and he kind of gave it away of like, I don't know. And
I don't care, you choose.
Right. But I started thinking about other moments where that kind of happens, right? That moment where like we give away, simple things thinking they don't matter, but they do. One thing that I thought of is people's names, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you'll have someone their name, like my name is Chris. I go by Chris. My full given government name is Christopher, right? And so like sometimes like in school they'd be calling your name on the roll, Christopher Friday. People would look, Christopher, and the teacher would say, do you go by Chris or do you go by Christopher?
Okay.
Right? Like that. What do you want to be called? I can't tell you. I would always say Chris.
Okay.
But a lot of times, I don't know if you've ever had this where people, like it could go a couple different ways and they say, I don't care. You choose. And I'm like, no, it's your name.
That's your
like,
name.
Right?
Yeah.
You pick. You want me to call you John or Johnny? Jonathan,
Johnny?
Right? I don't know. You pick. I started defaulting to like telling kids, like when we were at the academy, I would tell them like, if you don't pick, I'm going to call you ham sandwich. If it doesn't matter what you're called, if it truly doesn't matter, well, then you're going to be ham sandwich.
Yeah, my mom named me very intentionally with a name that you cannot shorten. So Erin is what it is. You're not calling someone like, hey, Air. What's up,
Hey, Air. No,
it just doesn't flow. Yeah, it doesn't. You can't shorten that one.
Airy.
Not effectively, at least.
Right.
Because Elizabeth was on the table, but that can be shortened.
Lots of different ways.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting that people are able to say, I don't care when it comes to their name and what they're called.
Right.
If you have a shortened name and you've ever given the I don't care answer, I would love to hear some of the don't care behind it. I think it's interesting.
Right. What are some other scenarios that you feel like where we kind of do this, where it's like, I don't care.
All right. So how many of us have ever been asked the plaguing question at 5:45 on a work night?
Yes.
When you don't feel like cooking.
Yes.
And your significant other, spouse, or you even ask yourself, where do you feel like eating tonight?
Right. What do you want for dinner?
What do you want for dinner? Where do you want to go? Okay. Especially if we're going out to dinner.
Yes.
Where do you feel like going?
Yes.
It is a rare occasion you'll hear me say, I don't care. Because 9 times out of 10, I have an opinion. However, I know so many people who say, I don't care. And then you suggest something and they're like, I don't want to eat there.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
It'd be one thing if it was just one thing. I mean, I had friends back in the day in my youth where we would do that whole like, where do you want to go? But it was like over and over.
Nonstop.
Yeah. Where do you want to go? And then you would start throwing out things.
Yeah.
And then you would find out, all right, you pick something. I don't care. Just pick something.
Yeah. And then
So-
there are people who truly mean it. My husband is
Right.
one of them, to where I can say, where do you feel like going? He's like, I really don't care. You pick. And I know he means it in all sincerity.
Yeah.
If he has an opinion, he's going to tell you, I want Italian food.
Right.
Wherever we go for that, that's fine.
Yes.
And I'm the kind of person who's decisive enough that if I say I don't care,
Then
I really mean
you don't care.
I don't care. To the extent I've said I don't care and I get like a weird look and I'm like, what in our history together
Right.
makes you think that I actually
You're not just secretly
care?
like, you better figure out that I really
You
want to
better
go to
answer
Olive.
right.
I better be to Carrabba's or else.
I love an Olive Garden soup, salad, and breadsticks
Ooh,
moment, though. I'm
yes.
just gonna say
Side note: which soup are you getting?
I get zuppa toscana
Yes.
and the gnocchi, chicken gnocchi soup.
Oh,
I'll do like one of each.
Most people go for like the pasta fagioli. I feel like it's a terrible choice.
I don't want that.
If you love the pasta fagioli, I'm a respecter of that. You know.
Also, we're now a food
Yeah.
live
Right?
stream, right?
Yeah.
But that's all to say, I mean, I just think that moment of like, I don't care, I don't know, or you choose
Mm-hmm.
is an interesting moment. Steve referred to it as a moment of surrender.
Mm,
And I think there are moments where that's okay.
right.
That's a good thing. It's good to let others take charge, let others take the lead. But how do you lose your voice in those moments?
Yeah.
And with something like a walk-up song, they chose for Steve, Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Yeah.
Which is a lovely song, but isn't the song that's going to make you feel like your most authentic self. And I think that really matters. And, I've thought about what my walk-up song is, and
Right.
I struggle with that. I would not be a very good
Yeah.
person to have to think through that, because I have a lot of different songs for different moments,
Well,
different moods.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it makes me think of, we might need multiple walk-up
Yeah.
songs, right? And have that mindset of, what is my walk-up song before I'm working out
Sure.
at like 6 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Or what is my walk-up song as like I'm driving the kids to school?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I will be honest with you, my walk-up song isn't so much of a song as it is sports talk radio.
And mine are true crime podcasts.
Right.
So I can't listen to that with my kids in the car. And I'm
No.
sure your girls don't want to listen to
No, they hate
sports.
it. They hate it.
But at the same time, if I know I've got a big presentation,
Yes.
or if I've got, for some people they want to listen to something that's going to really hype them up.
Mm-hmm.
I drive in silence, because
Mm.
sometimes I'll like talk it through with myself a little bit out loud,
Yeah.
which is just my processing mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
So setting the tone for yourself.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to show up in environments in the way that you choose
Mm-hmm.
can really matter. And finding that out for yourself is critical. So what are some ways that we can kind of explore and think about how we show up in different environments? What do you think?
Well, I think first we have to kind of like know who we are
Mm-hmm.
and do a little self-awareness, right? Because if I'm listening to the sports talk radio and that gets me elevated,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I come into a moment that might be like, it's a meeting, or we're like dissecting up different, programs or whatever, I'm already in a different kind of a place.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been affected by that, right?
Mhm.
And so it's knowing like what are the things for me that like I might need silence, or you know
Mhm.
what, I need a calming voice based off of what I'm about to go into. And that for yourself, right? Like what is the best for you, or is it going to be like I need to be hyped up? Some of us don't need to be hyped up because we can hype ourselves
I hype myself up
right
usually.
out of the room. Absolutely.
Very truly.
Absolutely. So I think one thing to start with, just like a sense of like your own kind of like self-awareness,
Mhm.
and even just like a review of like the different playlists that you have.
So and so the playlist, the walk-up song can be literal, it can be figurative. It
Mhm.
just depends on how you want to bring yourself into spaces. What I think is interesting about this blog in particular is Steve was invited into a space. He was invited into this question of what is your walk-up song, and then surrendered that moment. So let's take it into a work context. If
Yeah.
you're in a meeting and someone says, "Hey, Chris, do you have an idea around this?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chris has a choice in that moment. He's being invited into the conversation. And you could say,
I don't care. Do whatever.
"I don't care, do whatever." But what if you have an idea?
Right.
Or if that idea or that conversation goes a different direction and you're like, "Wait a minute, why didn't I say
What?
something?"
Oh,
I hate that moment.
that moment is almost as bad as like having an idea and not sharing it, and someone else has your idea,
Yeah, that feeling's
and they get like all kinds of accolades and
You're like,
employee of the
"Go."
month and, jazzy parking space. And you were like,
If I had just spoken up.
if I had just spoken up, I would have had that parking
Yeah,
space.
it's all about the parking space.
Right.
We don't have that parking space situation here, but
No.
that's to say, I mean, what if you get invited into a space and you have an idea and you choose not to share it?
Mhm.
What happens when we hold on to ideas? What happens when we hold on to processes? What happens when we hold on to a thought? That can serve you well though sometimes, right?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's good to marinate on something. But
Mhm.
even then, I think it's better to say, you know what? Let me think about that.
Sure.
Because even then, that's a contribution and not just because if not, then people might just automatically assume, oh, you're going to be good with whatever, or you don't have an idea right now.
Mhm.
So we'll keep moving forward. And then next thing you know, the train has left the station
Sure.
and the horse is out of the barn.
Mm-hmm.
The ball is out of the pitcher's hand.
So many.
I'm trying to think
You've
of
rung
all
the
these.
bell that you can't unring.
Yes, right. Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. I think we have a lot of those moments where, by choosing not to engage, by choosing not to say
Mhm.
something, it can be beneficial. I know sometimes when we're in a conversation and it's like, do you have any ideas around that? I might say, I have ideas, but I think they'll be tangential to what we're trying to do right
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
I tend to be a squirrel and think way out in left
Mm.
field. And if somebody says, no, that's okay, all ideas are on the table, then that's the moment to jump in. But especially in a directed meeting, I try to keep things on track if I can help it.
Right.
And not have those tangential moments. Or maybe if I have a thought, this really isn't going to add value to the conversation. So
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm really good. Instead of just saying I don't care. I think that moment of apathy can be read the wrong way. I think we say it in the best possible sense of oh, I don't care.
Oh, I'm good with whatever.
I'm good with whatever.
Yeah. I like where it's headed, or, and inside we might not actually feel, that way.
Yeah. So in that sense, saying what you mean,
right.
Owning your words matters. So if you don't care, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely okay. But saying that and not really meaning it.
Yeah.
I think we've all been in that passive.
Yeah, totally.
Passive aggressive moment of I don't care.
Yeah.
No, I can very well see that you care.
I think also, as we're talking about the walk-up song, something else that makes me think of is not so much the song part, but the walk-up, right? What that process is
Mm-hmm.
That time that I have, a batter has time to walk into
Mm-hmm.
the batter's box to get their mind in a place, right? If you're going to be presenting and they ask for a walk-up song, I'm going to have 30 seconds before I actually have to come out and say something or start
Mm-hmm.
to engage, even though you've already really begun to engage with the audience. But it gets me thinking of that mindset and that pregame kind of routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are those things that not just walk-up songs, but how are we getting into that? What's that routine that we're moving in
Mm-hmm. as
we're getting ready to kick off, even though it's really being kicked off as we're walking through?
That's great. I mean, I think a super concrete question around that. How do you prepare to walk into spaces? We talk about presentation a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, and I mean, not mindset wise, but literal preparation steps. Before just about every meeting that we do here, I try to go back, remind myself what the meeting's about.
Yes.
If there's anything I need to review before going into that meeting, if I need to print dates, if I need to walk in with my laptop, with my computer or my calendar up, I have my calendar up. If I know I'm getting ready to walk into a meeting, we're reviewing a report that's been written, I have the report up, I have the notes up, I have the proposal up, everything that speaks into that report. So those preparation steps are kind of my walk-up song in some ways.
Yes.
That make me feel like when I walk into that meeting, I'm like, let's go. Because if you have a question, I can answer it right now.
Yeah. I mean, especially as we're doing a lot of things over Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing worse than having that moment of oh, maybe I would love to share this. And then you're doing this whole thing, but you're trying not to make it obvious.
Love your plant in the background and trying to hunt for the document.
When that's happening, the heart is racing. And then it feels like all of the elements conspire against you to
Mm-hmm.
We want to update something, or, the internet
So
wants
true.
to go extra slow in this moment. And even though it's probably not, we put a lot of extra anxiety and pressure and burden on ourselves versus just knowing that what is that 30 seconds or what is that pre-game before?
Yeah. And it helps. It makes a
Oh.
difference in how you show up when you know your computer's updated, you know you have the documents you needed, you know you have this, you know you have that, to where in the vein of a walk-up song, if you know what song's about to play,
Right.
you know how to walk into that situation. Funny side note, there's a really funny video out there of a little league baseball team or a couple little league baseball teams
Mhm.
where the moms changed their walk-up songs to whatever they wanted. So these
Oh.
young men are walking up to the plate thinking their walk-up song's going to come on, and their walk-up song that their mom picked comes on, and it's like My Little Pony and Barbie Girl and Say My Name,
Yes.
and just like really funny, very girly songs.
that
And the expression on their face of like what they thought was going to happen and what
Yes.
happened is a very funny moment. But I think, in paralleling that to our work environment,
Mhm.
what about when we go to walk into something
Yes.
and it ends up not being what we thought,
Yes.
especially like the moment leading up to it? So you were kind
Right.
of describing it, and how many of us have ever pulled up a Zoom and it was like, Zoom is glitching, Zoom is updating,
Right. Yeah.
Teams is not working.
Right.
Don't want to throw
That's-
Zoom under the bus too
Yeah.
much.
Right.
But, what happens when the unexpected happens
Yeah.
as we're preparing?
Because that can create all sorts of, and on some level, going back to like the baseball,
Mhm.
like analogy, like that player that gets that different song, like the last thing you want them to be thinking about in the batter's box is, why did that song play?
That wasn't my song.
That wasn't my song. And then
Yeah.
you're focused on that versus, what it is that you do. Right.
Mhm.
And so sometimes things are going to happen.
Mhm.
And I think, as much as we can, try to remain present and engaged on like, what is the important thing really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The walk-up song isn't necessarily what matters. It's how we perform in that moment.
Right.
And I think the other part too is learning how you deal with those moments where things change and things adjust. And I'm sure that when Steve heard a song come on that he was kind of like, oh,
Right.
come on. I'm sure he was smiling.
Right. I don't think he turned over chairs and like, I'm not going on.
I can't perform
I can't do
under this Bobby
this.
McFerrin situation.
Right.
I just can't do it. I'm sure, you rally. And,
Yes.
and those young men, it was funny. They like looked over at their moms and smiled and started laughing. And sometimes I think that laughter and joy around situations that have gone a different way can change how we feel about the situation and can like reset us of like, well, that happened.
Well,
it's not a bad thing.
No, and sometimes just acknowledging it.
Mhm.
And then because we get that nice empathetic moment
Yeah.
of like, because I'm sure everyone in the audience has had a moment like that too. And just being willing to say, that was not the song that I thought was going to be. And everyone just getting a good laugh and just to kind of ease the tension versus, holding on to things. You were started talking earlier about like holding on to different things. And sometimes those kinds of things we can hold on to and they can be our undoing because they start to then snowball. And then what happens is we bring that into the next meeting or interaction, even if it doesn't have anything to do with it. And they start just like building upon each other versus just allowing yourself. And in those moments, recognizing, going back to the self-awareness moment of like, you know what? I need to just go for a walk, or I need to just take 30 seconds of whether it's silence or whatever, but I need to shift the focus. I need to shift the mindset. I need to shift the space here and come in fresh and come in new to this next thing. It doesn't mean we won't be able to address, whatever it was that happened.
So if you're watching this at home or at work or wherever you are, we'd love to hear in the chat. Just drop in some suggestions of how you adjust in those moments. If a meeting didn't go the way you wanted to, or you prepped for something and it changed at the last moment, how do you make that adjustment in real time? Because, we don't always have the good fortune of having it happen 10 minutes before the meeting or 10 minutes before the presentation. Sometimes it's happening in real time.
Yes.
So right when we go to step on stage, when our song doesn't play,
right.
Speaking of metaphors, when our song doesn't play, how can we readjust?
Yeah.
What does that take a breath moment look like? What does that take a walk moment look like? Because if I can't literally take a walk, how am I adjusting?
Well, and I got a chance to experience this, and if I can, throw some shine towards Aaron here, we were teaming up on this like hybrid kind of meeting for a client, and Aaron was in DC at the client site. I was back doing like virtual production, and we had met like the day before to kind of go through the pre-game routine. And then we were thinking the day of, we like to log in like, half hour, 45 minutes before.
Yeah.
And that wasn't happening. And then it was pretty much like, it's time for the thing to start and you're just going to have to go.
Yeah.
And
we didn't get like prep time.
We didn't even get a walk-up song.
Pre-up time. Yeah. Right? There was no walk-up song.
Our walk-up, and in that respect, our walk-up song happened the day before, right?
Yeah.
But just the way that like you adjust and like, okay, it's going to be what it's going to be, right? And everyone has experienced this. And in the end, there wasn't really any glitches or anything like that. It happened smooth, but that is something that can totally derail somebody in that moment.
It can.
And you hold on to that and you bring it in.
Yeah. Well, I think what I always think about is I don't matter walking into a meeting or presentation. Like I try to leave my ego or my myself wherever I can. It's about the people that I'm in front of. It's about how I want them to feel. If I want them to feel informed, or I want them to feel taken care of, want them to feel connected, whatever that might be. If I'm coming in letting those things bother me, I can't, I can't achieve the true objective of what I'm walking into. So, if the wrong walk-up song gets played for a baseball player, they're still going to go up there and try to hit a home run and make their fans feel bought in.
Hopefully, yeah.
And I hope so.
Yeah.
And they're not going to let it affect their performance. So when our setup isn't perfect, when things don't go exactly as we plan, how can we remember what you're showing up for and why you're showing up?
That's it.
That's what matters more than your walk-up song, is your why. So remembering your why and not as much your what your walk-up song was. Just keep that in mind. That'll keep you focused.
And put those two together, right? If I know I'm trying to make the audience feel X, Y, or Z, then there might be a song that helps to like set that mood and sets that table. Music is, you talked about this earlier, has that effect, based off of what's happening. So choose wisely. It might not be like, this is my ultimate favorite song, so therefore this is my walk-up song. It might be like, this is my walk-up song for this audience in this moment. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And certainly at the same time, even if you're just going into a meeting, you don't actually get to play a walk-up song. Yeah. Play it in your brain, right? I'm going in to this meeting, and this is going to put me in this kind of vibe.
Yeah. I was just thinking about my kids started school last week. I think your girls started school last week.
Yes.
And the ride into school, there's always a debate of, are we going to listen to the audiobook?
Yes.
Or are we going to listen to the podcast? Or are we going to listen to music? So my oldest is the audiobook podcast kid.
Yes.
And my middle son is the music kid. And so it was his first day of kindergarten. So I was like, Grady gets to pick his song for the day.
Okay.
And so Grady went with Elvis, Burnin' Love.
Why not?
Because it gets him so excited. He sits in the back seat and like does this little Elvis dance. And it's just funny, it was funny watching even that as a child.
Right.
That putting him in the right mood and mindset. And I mentioned last week, he walked in so confident. And part of that was that he had his brother with him. And the other part had something to do with Elvis, I think. So,
Elvis walk up.
Remembering that we need to find joy in those moments. We need to enter spaces with joy. When we're asked what matters to us,
right,
we should tell people. And if we really care, we shouldn't say we don't.
Absolutely.
So just a couple of little takeaways.
If I could put you on the spot, do you?
I knew we were going to get around to asking each other these, right?
Right.
Do I have a walk-up song? Am I allowed to ask you, do you have one like ready in your brain?
I thought of one.
Okay. What have you got?
I've got this might be cliche, but I've got the happy song.
The happy song. What's that one?
The Pharrell.
Oh, because I'm happy. Gotcha.
Yeah, right?
Gotcha.
Is
that one?
It makes me think
joyful.
of my kids. Like
Yeah.
my kids like to like jump around and like dance to it, you
That
know.
is a good one.
And so maybe after the Elvis, they're like,
Yeah. I think I would have to. So the one that comes to mind, song, it's Faith by Stevie Wonder and Ariana Grande do a duet. It's at the end of the movie Sing.
Okay.
And it's like just very upbeat. And it's like she walks around with diamonds in her shoes and like she walks around like she's got nothing to lose.
Right.
And if I think of like a walk-up song, I want to walk up like I've got diamonds in my shoes and I've got nothing to lose.
There you go. Why not?
I like thinking of that as like a walk-up song.
That's awesome.
And then there's like my marathon running list, which is very spastic and all over the place. Got some nice slow jams, some really good fast songs. It changes quite a bit. So as you go through it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what's our song of the week?
Our song of the week is You Are the Best Thing by Ray. And I'm going to say his name terribly. I believe it's Ray LaMontagne. LaMontagne. And it's a song that when I saw it pop up, it was on the table as one of our wedding songs when my husband and I were getting married. And it's just that the song is basically you're the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Right.
Days can be long and hard, but as long as I come home to you, that's what matters.
Right.
And I think we need to be in that space with ourselves and remember that like we are the best thing.
Right.
It's okay to say that. Be your own hype person.
Yeah. Right.
I
got this.
Yeah, I've got this. And you are the best thing, and be confident in your answer and be confident in what you know, believe, and see.
Right.
And that's just going to make a huge difference in how you enter spaces.
That's it. Right. So before you go into any kind of a space meeting or whatever, don't neglect that pregame routine and don't neglect the experience or what can happen from just choosing that cool walk-up song.
Exactly. So thank you all so much for tuning in this week. We've been thrilled to have you. Remember to jump into that chat, share some comments so that we can comment back to you even after the stream has ended. And we would love to see you next week because we are here not Chris and I necessarily, but someone from the Game On team.
In general, Game On.
Game On is here at 11:30 every Thursday. And this conversation is so much more rich when it's with you. So we definitely want to hear from you. Make sure you follow us across social media and make sure you're subscribed to our blog.
That's right. So thanks a lot for joining. We'll hope to see you soon.
And I'm excited to read walk-up songs. So make sure you share those. Have a great week.